Hello, welcome to the last BLESS conversation. I'm quite sad that it's finishing, but I'm so excited to be here one more time as we talk about how we go and make disciples. And today we are talking about how do I open the scriptures with someone who's still exploring faith. And I have the wonderful Joy and Victor on the sofa with me today. I am Nicola, if you don't know already. But Joy, let's start with you. You've been in the church in Kings since it began. And opening the Bible, reading it with people was something that you did as you started the church. Can you just share a little bit of your experience and any highlights from doing that with those who didn't know Jesus at that point?
Yes, the church started off by having a Bible study. And there was probably about 6 or 8 couples. And they had a good time. We had a good time together exploring the Bible. And there was a lady called Di who's still with us today, and she was very, very good at inviting people that weren't Christians into their home. And she invited them to a Bible study at our house. And it was really good. She used to say to them, we're going to have a meal together and then we're going to study the Bible. So would you like to come along? And they did. And they studied the Bible and they came to faith. And it was a blessing. And when we moved out to Hazelmere, a couple of years later, I think they nearly all moved out to join us again, which was really encouraging. But we used to have socials as well, where we used to invite people along that we'd just have fun, have a normal day out together, and ask them to join us. And then it was an inroad to be able to share Jesus with them.
Yeah, that's so good. And now, look at the church now. It's incredible. God is here. He's at work.
Yeah.
And Victor, this is part of your heart for your small group. Now you and your wife lead a small group. Can you just share about what your heart for your small group is and how bringing non-Christians into that environment is so key?
Yeah. Well, I'm from Brazil. I moved to the UK a couple of years ago. And I came to Christ through a small group. I actually went to a Christian camp that a friend from college invited me, and I got very curious about what happened there. Some, fascinating things inside of me and outside of me. And then I 3 months later, I joined a professional judo club, and there were this handful of warm Christians, catching up with me and inviting me to small groups from a different church. And then I spent 1 year exploring the Bible. Yeah, because I was very resistant. And then in a second Christian camp, I came to Christ. I had a true experience with God and changed everything and delved into this passion, to reach out to other people because I was blind. Everything was apparently fine with me until I saw it was not. And yeah, so moving to the UK and to High Wycombe specifically, I found King's Church and we were as a family super excited with everything that is happening here. And there's this history that already happened, the church was created the same way there.
Yeah. And
we lived down there. And after, some time getting to know people and connecting people, we are finally with our small groups, and we are trying to mimic something that Joy talked, the same format really.
Yeah.
So we have this Bible study group every 2 weeks, and we alternate with socials or whatever, or the activities that God will show us in a way that's very organic and natural, because we know that sometimes it's a big step for people here to go directly to a small group, even if I've shared something with them if I'm trying and helping them exploring their faith, to go to someone else's house or even to my house with weird people is a big group, is a big step. So if I invite them to a different kind of meeting, more informal one, they'll see that we are not so weird, that we are actually fun and cool. And they will be interested in joining the small groups because they will be friends of other people, not only my friends, and vice versa.
That's so good.
That's good.
And it's great. Yeah, this thing of we want to see people become Christians. We want to invite them in. And part of it is reading the Bible with them and opening that up. And so how do you bring up the conversation, like the topic of reading the Bible with someone? Maybe you've been journeying with them a little while and you kind of shared your story. You might have shared about Jesus. And then how do you bring up that topic of, I'm going to talk about the Bible, or do you want to read the Bible with me, or whatever it is? How do you do that?
I think it depends really. I think at what kind of stage that they're at, and really where they're coming from, and but perhaps just start off a conversation by telling them your story, or telling them my story, and then saying to them, "Have you ever read the Bible? Do you know any stories in the Bible?" They might remember some from Sunday school or something like that. Do you remember any verses in the Bible? Or even, have you said the Lord's Prayer? Because that's an inroad as well. And just ask them the questions.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, I like to ask God every time I'm meeting some friend or friends. I pray that that God will be there, will be helping me and guiding me to know where exactly to speak and to create some moments there really. And I think that God is already, the first thing is that God is already speaking to these people. It's not all on me. I'm just putting some bricks on this journey, or trying to. And I would go and see what exactly is the need of the person. Is the person looking for meaning, for truth, or is the person with some physical need? That would try and pray for the person. I'm actually learning to do that more here at King's, very boldly, hopefully one day. Is it an emotional need? That I want to be there and help them. So the Bible says that, right? That there is Jesus going to the lame and the blind, or to the Samaritan woman with some emotional issues, or discussing more theological, philosophical things with Nicodemus, or Philip talking to the Ethiopian eunuch that was quite open and honest about his search for truth, and he just came with the answer. So God is already talking to these people. So it really depends on where they are in their journey, as Joy said.
Yeah, it's that thing of getting to know them and seeing where they're at, and also listening to God or what He's doing in their lives already, so that we can kind of be at work with Him, because that's it. We don't want to be doing this on our own. We have to do it with Jesus, don't we?
I think it's a good point as well, that it doesn't necessarily become our responsibility. We can sow the seeds. And it says in the Bible that Paul sowed the seed and Apollos watered. And we can sow the seed. That's our responsibility, to sow the seed. But we might not even see the outcome if the person moves on or whatever. But we've fulfilled our responsibility.
Yeah. It's that thing of taking the pressure off.
Yes.
Like we do our part, we sow our seed, whatever that might be, and God's in control of the journey, isn't it? Which is so good. And so maybe someone said, or it expressed an interest in the Bible and reading the Bible. Are there any passages or parts of the Bible where you would instantly think, oh, I would take someone to that part? Are there any great passages to start with someone who's exploring the Bible?
Yeah, again, I think I would try and answer any kind of need that the person has. Avoid polemic things, because sometimes the person wants to talk about one thing, but actually I'll be more efficient in answering some more deeper issues that she has, or questions that she has, or he has. So, and if the person is positive enough, I would just give them a Bible study plan. I would catch up with the person, during the week and see how things are, and try and arrange some socials with the person to see what's going on really, and if she got stuck with something that she doesn't agree, or he doesn't agree, and would always do this as a family, and because that makes things much easier. And as a family, me and my wife and my kids, and also my Christian friends, because then eventually I won't have the same experience that the person has. The person has some issues with drugs and never used drugs, but a friend could tell his story and his testimony on that, and maybe more helpful than my vain comments.
Yeah. I think doing it in family is so key.
Yeah.
That's good.
I agree with Victor, and I also think as well that if somebody is exploring faith, I think I would take them to the story of the prodigal son, where there is love and restoration, and where the Father just welcomes you back when you've gone astray. And because I would say basically that was my story, and that it could be their story as well.
Yeah, there's so much. Yeah, that was such an encouraging story and parable. So that's really good. Victor, you talked about walking alongside and seeing if people had questions about maybe the Bible plan that they're reading. How people, we all have questions about the Bible, but how do we deal with when people have questions, or if they have arguments or doubts? Do you have any experiences of doing that, or how would you tackle those things?
I think I would be very honest with them and say I haven't got all the answers. But I think I would just ask them their viewpoint as well, because I think that can lead in to other questions and other answers. Well, what do you think about that? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah.
And get a conversation going.
Yeah. And that's what Jesus did, isn't he? Like, someone would ask him a question and he'd just flip it back with another question, and you suddenly open up a conversation instead of it just being like, oh, I'm just going to teach you these things. Yeah. It brings it back to them. That's really good. And something that's come out through all of the BLESS conversations is how important it is to love the person that's in front of you, to really care about them, to listen to them, and not just be kind of this, oh, I just need to do this because my church have told me to do this, but actually care about them. And in making disciples and reaching out to our friends and walking alongside them in their exploration of faith, of Jesus, it is a journey, and there's a cost and a sacrifice to that. How do you go about that? How have you gone about that? And also, what are the good sides of going and making disciples and walking alongside people in that journey?
Well, I think that sacrifice is something very subjective. I like to ask this question: what is £1,000 a lot of money? You cannot say the answer. unless you know what you're trying to buy with £1,000. So £1,000 for a house is nothing, right? But £1,000 for a pair of shoes is the worst thing you can do with your money, right? So sometimes we are avoiding buying the house because we are spending our £1,000 with shoes, right? So once we know we have our spiritual view very, very, open, we can judge, and nothing will be expensive. If you see in terms of effort, what is a barbecue about? What is a chat or an extra hour that you're talking to a friend in a sports club that you extended a bit out of your schedule? That's really nothing. There's no sacrifice in there, really, because compared to what is at stake.
Yeah. I think for me, this subject doesn't come very easily to me. Unlike Victor, who is a natural, I have to work at this, and it involves a lot of sweat and a lot of prayer on my behalf to be able to open my mouth sometimes. But as you say, the rewards are great. And what I do love is coming alongside somebody and spending time with them and being on that journey with them is just so fulfilling. Answering questions and going home and praying for them and perhaps, if I'm very brave, saying, I'll pray for you now. It is so fulfilling in the end. And when you think of it in the terms of eternity, it's amazing.
Yeah, definitely. It's so worth the sacrifice, isn't it? That thing of, and there's so much joy in walking alongside someone, and when they grasp that, or in, you just see that seed, kind of whatever that seed is, but that shoot come through, and you think, oh, there's something there, and it's seeing the value of the sacrifice, as you said, and it doesn't all come naturally. It definitely doesn't come naturally to me, but there is that urgency and that. It's so good.
Yeah, and imagine if old small groups had people, non-Christians, visiting them. How more joyful that would be, how more meaningful that would be. So if you think very selfishly, that there's your life at stake, your meaningless life that can turn into something very meaningful and very adventurous and close to much closer to Jesus.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing, like, you both started out by sharing about small groups and doing these things in small groups, and there's that thing of, we get to do this in community, we get to do this in the family of God, and we can do that in our small groups. A lot of people might be the only Christian in their neighborhood or their workplaces or their schools or wherever it is, but they're not alone as Christians, and it's inviting kind of, and thinking about how we do small groups, like who we invite into our small groups, where are the opportunities for that. It's so good. So just to finish, in making disciples, reading the Bible with others, if someone is maybe at the beginning of that journey, what would you say to them to encourage them, or kind of be your top tip to that person? I didn't prime you for this question, so I'm being mean right now.
Well, I think if you've journeyed with the person, that helps as well, because you get to know them and you've invested time in them, and you've probably got a closer relationship with them. And I think that is very important.
There's that journey in with them. That's so good. What about you, Victor?
Well, follow the BLESS. The last sequence,
Nice.
really. That's a good ending, isn't
Yes,
it?
That's great.
It is, yeah. Follow the bless.
Yeah.
And think about next steps as well. After you shared your story, if you had a positive or negative response, keep praying for the person. And as we said, try and get more people involved, so it's not as tiring. Just this one-to-one approach. Sometimes it's a bit lonely and less engaging than if you have all the people involved. So you work as a team. It's 2 or 3 against 1, not 1-on-1.
That's great. Thank you so much, Joy and Victor. I have loved this conversation, and it's been so encouraging just to hear your experiences and your hearts in this. And church, I hope this has been really encouraging for you, and let's go out and love the people that are in front of us, and let's remember that we're not alone, that let's be listening to God, but also bringing them into community. Maybe it's thinking, actually, you can think of someone who might come along to a small group social, or even come along into a Bible study, or it's just offering a scripture or part of the Bible, or looking at things with them. So let's be encouraged that we are on the victorious side, that we have great news for these people. And that's the end of the series. Thank you so much for watching these videos. I hope you found them as encouraging as I have. I know I've definitely been encouraged, and I'm excited to see what God does in the lives of those who don't know Jesus around me. And so let's go out, let's go make disciples and be Jesus to those who don't know him.